great to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
All I can say is, wow, Holder's got some explaining to do after these new documents come out.
Yeah, I have no idea how he could possibly try to claim that he was not aware of Fast and Furious at this point. The defense that they're currently trying to put up, that he didn't understand the question, that just boggles the mind. How do you not understand something as simple as, when did you first hear of this program?
Yep. And I saw on Fox saying, that's a good excuse from people who say, you know what, hey, I'm lying.
Yep.
You hate to be so blunt, but he said it. And, you look at this. I mean, Holder from the start, he said, I didn't know about it. I didn't authorize it. And now you've got a slew of documents. I mean, you've got memos from Lanny Brewer, one of his chief deputies, telling him in a memo that prosecutors were ready to issue indictments in Operation Fast and Furious.
You've got that. You've got the weekly updates that he was getting from the director of the National Drug Intelligence Center.
Yep.
And I think that probably is going to end up the smoking gun, because that particular document indicates that he has been getting information on a handful of very specific, high-level, very important cases on a weekly basis. There's no way this was the only document or only weekly update that he got on these programs.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that there are a half dozen or more of those floating around that just haven't been released yet.
And then you've got the emails between the deputy chief of the National Gang Unit, James Trusty, and Jason Weinstein, the deputy assistant attorney general of the Criminal Division. And they are talking about letting guns walk.
Talking about letting guns walk and saying it's not a big deal on top of that.
In fact, Trusty says it's not going to be any big surprise that a bunch of guns are being used. So I'm not sure how much grief we get for gun walking. It may be more like, finally, they're going after the people who sent the guns down there.
Yeah, it seems that they have absolutely no regard whatsoever for the lives of American and Mexican civilians and law enforcement agents who were running into these guns. We're talking, just through Fast and Furious, at least 2,020 guns that walked. We still don't know about how many guns went through the Tucson operation, which they're calling Wide Receiver, or another operation in Texas that was alluded to in another document.
Yeah. The big question now is whether Holder committed perjury, and that's why Congressman Lamar Smith is now calling for a special prosecutor. Your thoughts on that one?
I don't see how Holder gets out of this. He quite obviously committed perjury. He cannot claim that he didn't understand such a simple question credibly.
I was going to say, because it was a simple question. When did you know about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to say, that you're hiding behind a clause or some sort of unspecific phrase. This was as direct and simple as a question as you can ask in the English language. And if you can't answer it, you're probably not qualified to draw air either. Holder quite clearly has perjured himself. So it is going to be very, very difficult for the president to avoid appointing a special counsel, and that's going to cause all sorts of issues for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, how does this not? I mean, it hasn't been so far, but how does this not become a campaign issue?
Yeah, this will become a campaign issue either way the administration goes with it. If they do not go for the special prosecutor, then they're going to come across as obstructing it. Any Republican candidate, front runner who's worth his salt is going to beat this into the ground. And while the media at large has done a really good job of trying to bury this story up until now, when it's front and center and presidential candidates are talking about it, it's going to get a much wider audience, and it's going to sink his candidacy as an obstructionist. On the other hand, if he comes through and delivers with the special prosecutor, then he's got to worry about what people say.
Yep. And now it's no longer just Holder, though, because you got everybody in there. You got Lanny Brewer. Mm-hmm. There's all these top officials that, again, Holder said they didn't know either.
And that's just injustice. We also know that the U.S. attorney that was instrumental in Fast and Furious Dennis Burke
Right, right.
was Napolitano's chief of staff, and those two were very close. And this happened on her home turf. There is no way on earth that Secretary Napolitano of Homeland Security wasn't eyeball deep in this as well, and I think that's all going to come out under a special prosecutor.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because it really does. Congressman Issa and Senator Grassley, they've called it stonewalling, they've called it cover-up, and all of this indicates they were right on about it.
They were dead on. I mean, just looking at the different ways this could, evolve, we're talking possible RICO prosecutions. We have got a fairly good case that our government committed what our own U.S. code defines as international terrorism by giving weapons to a narco-terrorist group.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really, really brutal, and I just don't think people understand what we're looking at here. We are looking at the biggest political scandal in the history of the United States.
Yep, and we still don't know, how we're going to see these guns turn up. I mean, we've already got, as you were saying, we've got a dead Border Patrol agent. They never apologized to the Terry family. And it's just going to be, it's wide open. It really is.
I cannot remember her name right now, but the Mexican Attorney General attributes a body count of 200 plus to this so far.
Yep.
So the possible criminal charges are basically limitless at this point. It could conceivably go up to RICO prosecutions, accessory to murder. There really is, the sky's the limit on this.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what Obama does now in response to Lamar and his request for a special prosecutor.
Yeah, the president has pretty much got himself painted into a no-win situation here.
Yeah.
I think he's in deep trouble, and he'll be lucky if he gets out without being impeached, and once he's out of office, if he avoids criminal charges.